So Blake Griffin and the Pistons have mutually agreed to part ways, I guess. And now they're going to work to try to get him somewhere else and do him a solid, basically. The thing here, though, is it's either a trade, which is tough to imagine, given the contract, a buyout, which is also tough to imagine, given the contract, because Blake would have to be willing to leave a lot of money on the table, like a real lot of money. Because I think as of right now, the Pistons still owe Blake over $50 million for the next 2 years. Yeah, he's got a player option, but that doesn't suddenly go away because of a buyout. Now, a nice little NBA nerd subplot is even the buyout itself with this could be weird because the Pistons, as of right now, are already stretching a few contracts, and if they stretched out Blake's at a certain amount, then they would be over the stretch limit, which is like 15% of the salary cap. So then I think it becomes a massive cap hit for one season, which maybe the Pistons would actually prefer, I don't know. But depending on how much money Blake would be willing to leave on the table, if he's willing to do that much at all, then it might turn into a stretch, which is, multi-year thing, less money per year, but it's, goes on forever. We'll see. And that's kind of it. I mean, either that or he's just on the team, but he's just not playing for 2 years. Now, of course, the first thing to mention is sucks, man. I mean, Blake, he was awesome 2 years ago. And there have been stretches of his career where you could have argued he was one of the, 7 or 8 best players in the NBA or so. And it's not even like he's that old. He's 31. You would think that if it wasn't for injuries, he could still be really good for another 4 years or something. And even then, probably decline into being a really good role player. And if you think about just him as a player moving forward, I mean, there's a chance that he's just done because he looks really slow. And I mean, he's playing hard, but the lift on the jumper, the stamina, the burst off the dribble, it's just not there. And there's a chance for him to be good moving forward. He might just have to be more of a spot-up guy who can make passes for you and play hard on defense and hope for the best. There's a chance that athleticism comes back and suddenly he's like a steal for whoever's going to end up with him, whether through this or by the beginning of next season or so. I don't know. We'll have to see. I think he will definitely get another shot in the NBA after this contract is up or after this buyout or whatever happens. So yeah, anyway, if we think about a move, there's a decent chance that the only real possibility of Blake getting traded is to OKC, because they're probably the only team in the league who's willing to take on a really bad contract if you give them stuff. The Pistons, for one, they can't trade any of their firsts because they're locked up in protections from a Rockets trade that I do not remember. Even if it wasn't, they should not consider moving a first at all. Now, as far as second rounders, they've got like 4 over the next 7 years. Most of their seconds are going to the Clippers and whoever else. So then it becomes, you look at their young players. Well, to me, they shouldn't trade any of their young players. I mean, Killian Hayes, Sekou Doumbouya, Josh Jackson, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey. They should just hold on to all of them, as far as I'm concerned. I think then you have to ask yourself, well, how desperate are they, if they were going to do that, to get off of Blake's money for next season? And when I think about that, I'm like, well, the only thing I can find is that they would want to max John Collins. Because why else would they be so desperate to get off of Blake's money when it's only for one more season? Because Collins is the only young free agent, and he's restricted, and we all know the Hawks don't want to give him a max offer, so that's the only thing I could see. I don't think the Pistons are planning on giving Oladipo a max contract offer. Now, if I can try to find a trade with somebody besides OKC, the only thing I can really think of is if some other team emerges as a give us your bad contracts for stuff team, but even then, everything I just said about their young guys would still apply to that new team. The only other thing I could think of, and it's not me predicting this at all, but it would be if another team has a bad contract and they'll take Blake's money because Blake is on less years than that contract. So example would be Cleveland. Kevin Love's on a 3-year deal. Blake is on a 2-year deal. That would be the reason that Cleveland would do it. Why would the Pistons want Kevin Love's contract? I have no idea. That's the hang-up. Another example could be Westbrook. If the Wizards wanted to get off of that deal, why would the Pistons want to lock themselves into Westbrook? And besides that, I just can't find it, man. I mean, I'm searching for a team that has a couple of bad contracts that they would want to get off of, but it's just not really there. I mean, I'm sure the Rockets don't really love the length of Eric Gordon's contract, but I don't think they're going to trade for Blake. You could say a similar thing about Bertans on the Wizards. His contract goes for a long time. Highly doubt he's going to be involved in a Blake deal. So, if you ask me, if Blake is going to be on a different team before his current contract is completed, then it's going to be through a buyout. And again, if he's going to do a buyout, he's got to be willing to leave some serious money on the table. And you know what? Maybe he'd be willing to do that. And if that's the case, then we can talk about that. But just to speculate on some teams who would like Blake, I mean, to be honest, if you're giving him what would be not much money at all, then you could pick basically anybody. I mean, the Celtics could take a flyer on him. The Blazers could. The Bucks, because why not? I don't know. And for the sake of the content, the Lakers could consider him. The Clippers could consider him. I don't know. Like Blake Griffin with no expectations on probably a minimum contract. Yeah, knock yourself out. Pick any team in the NBA. So we'll see. I mean, I really doubt the Pistons would just stretch the contract, and I also really doubt that Blake would leave a whole lot of money on the table. So then at that point, it becomes more of the trade, or maybe he gets bought out in the middle of next season or something. That's all I got.